What's up, everybody? Good evening. Welcome to a reshoot of the first video episode of StrosBros featuring myself, Jerry Morrison, and my good partner over here, Taylor Cotton. Taylor, how are you?
Doing good, brother. How about yourself?
I'm doing better now that we got the audio figured out.
Hey, we had some great stuff going on. Too bad no one's going to be able to
yeah,
hear it.
yeah. So for those of y'all that I know there were a few of the subscribers that saw, but we had a video that posted. We had like an hour's worth of content that we couldn't even get to use because I didn't go back. My dumb self didn't go back and check the microphone. But we're all good. We got everything up and running now. But before we dive into everything we're going to talk about this evening, guys, don't forget to hit the like and smash that subscribe button that you're going to see down at the bottom of the screen. Helps people locate the StrosBros channel and helps continue to grow our community all together. We're just going to jump right in. What we wanted to talk about today, we're kind of two main topics. I mean, obviously, the biggest one being the upcoming trade deadline, which we are less than a week away now. We're 6 days out, from the expiration of that trade deadline. What we're essentially going to do is, Taylor and I, we're going to talk about kind of like the top two targets that we feel like the Astros have the ability to get. And then the last one's going to be kind of a toss up that, we're going to try to, figure out, who's kind of on our wish list that we would love to see in an Astros uniform and play, for our hometown team. So Taylor, I'll start with you, man. So tell me who you're looking at first as like that first target.
Well, definitely the trade deadline is one of my favorite times of the year, alongside the winter meetings, because it just feels like there's just so much smoke out there, on Twitter and on the internet in terms of, teams making trades, signings, etc. Now, not all the time when there's smoke, there's fire, but in this case, you're going to start to see a lot more activity probably around Thursday, Friday of this week, with that Tuesday deadline. But I mean, heck, when we got Zach Greinke, that happened like with 5 minutes left on the deadline last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if, we haven't made anything, and then to pull something out at the very last minute, at least that's the hope, because of James Click, our new GM. We're still kind of getting used to, what he's got going on, but all the reports are out there is that the Astros have been very aggressive. Obviously the big target that dominates the whole marketplace is Juan Soto. I hate to be that guy, but I just don't think that that's going to be a realistic, acquisition for the Stros. Love to be wrong. I think he, he could fit in any lineup with any team, but in terms of a acquisition cost and in terms of what you're going to have to pay him, it's not likely. My dream target, I mean, my number one, Cincinnati Reds starting pitcher Luis Castillo. I mean, we're talking about when this dude's on, he's a stud. He started off kind of slow because of injuries, but his last five starts, I mean, we're talking against the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Rays, the Braves. I mean, he smoked them. I mean, he embarrassed the Yankees so bad in Yankee Stadium. All the Yankees players were like, we've got to get Luis Castillo in a jersey. You make a trade like that, kind of puts us at the top of our lineup that, back when we had Verlander and Garrett Cole, because Luis Castillo's got top of the rotation type stuff. His numbers, are pretty good. And he gets batters out. He strikes out batters, and he can work, he can work for you. I tell you, the reason that I like him so much, he is going to cost a little bit in terms of prospects because you do have another year of control. So with that year of control, that gives you insurance in the event that maybe Lance McCullers doesn't come back, or if he does come back, he's not pitching like he did in 2021. But Verlander, after his next start, he's got a clause in his contract that he can, nullify it, and just to basically opt out of that last year and go out on the open market and, get a new contract. And the way that he's pitching this year, that's exactly what I would do, is get one more last payday. Maybe the Astros do it, maybe they don't. But if you have Luis Castillo, it takes a little bit of that sting away.
So now with Castillo, what? I mean, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but what are his controllable years remaining?
So he will have, you'll have him for the rest of this year, obviously, and then he has one more year of arbitration after that. That'd be next year. So then he would be a free agent in the 2024 market.
Gotcha. So we'd basically have 2 years of control in acquiring Castillo, essentially, Now, in terms of, I mean, let's say hypothetically does, Verlander does exercise that clause. I mean, we're only 10th in total payroll right now. I mean, I feel like we have more than enough collateral as well as, a bright future ahead of us to maintain the remainder of Verlander's career. I mean, I highly doubt the dude's going to want to leave and then like go to LA, right? Or he's going to want to leave and go to New York. I mean, personally, man, I don't see it happening. I think he's going to finish out his career in an Astros uniform. And I think James Click's going to see that, and I think he's going to want to offer him more money, especially now that he's proven that he's healthy. I mean, because that was really kind of that question that was up in the air that no one really knew, right? Because everyone comes back from Tommy John a little bit different. I mean, dude, I remember way back. I mean, I don't know if you remember this guy, but I remember Johan Santana when he was with at the time he was with the Twins, and he ended up having
Yep.
Tommy John, and then he ended up going to the Mets, and nobody really knew kind of what to expect. And then I think he won. I want to say he won the Cy Young, or he got like really close to winning the Cy Young in the National League. So like, I mean, he's a perfect example. I mean, obviously Justin Verlander is a perfect example. I mean, a lot of these guys with the advances that they've made with that surgery specifically, that they're coming back stronger than ever, which has been really, really interesting to see. But yeah, so all right, so that's that top trade piece. So tell me what your second one is.
Well, my second trade option that candidate that I really like, solves a lot of problems. I was going to touch on the 10th in payroll. What's a little bit misleading about that is you have Michael Brantley, a free agent after this year. Yuli Gurriel, free agent after this year. You have to pay Kyle Tucker eventually, if you don't want him to lose. Don't want to lose him like we did with George Springer and Carlos Correa. So, if a team, say like the Mets or the Dodgers or somebody else, offers big money, multiple years on Justin Verlander based on how he's pitched this year, just the way that the Astros operate, I would not be surprised if they just let him walk because they have other needs to fill. That brings me to our catcher and first base situation. Those are literally black holes in our lineup. It's been tough, especially for Yuli Gurriel. At least Martin Maldonado, Machete. He does a lot of things for our pitching staff. But poor Yuli, I don't know, if he needs to get back on the pizzas and sodas that he was on last year, but he's father time is really taking its toll. Which brings me to my second candidate, Josh Bell from the Washington Nationals. I mean, this dude is having a year, all-star this year, raking, switch hitter, batting over 300 right now, a couple home runs, several RBIs, and he's in the middle of a lineup. I mean, the only person that he's batting behind is Juan Soto, which is no slouch. But you take Josh Bell and Juan Soto, that's all they have in their lineup. So, that would be my second trade candidate choice would be a Josh Bell. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I have Josh Bell's stats up right now through Baseball Reference. So this year in 98 games, he's got 417 plate appearances, 358 at bats within those plate appearances. He's got 109 hits. So I mean, dude, he if he continues, I mean, he could potentially get close to 200 hits, which would be kind of crazy for a first baseman. But
Imagine
he's
that. Imagine that right in between an Altuve, a Jordan, uh, Kyle Tucker. I mean, just right in the middle of our lineup. That'd be disgusting. That's right. Hey, you're not wrong. I mean, he would be such a tremendous addition. Now, he would be a rental, so in terms of the acquisition cost, it would not be as severe as say, going after Luis Castillo, because Luis Castillo, that's going to cost you some big time prospects, maybe even some guys. I mean, we're fortunate we have kind of an embarrassment of riches going on with our starting pitching with Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy, we could utilize along with like a Hunter Brown down in AAA. We have a couple guys, Jose Siri down there, Chas McCormick. Those are kind of good names that you get thrown around for these players, but it would definitely do us, a lot better to have that in our lineup than what we're getting from Yuli Gurriel right now. Because aside from, unless we're playing Oakland, I mean, we have an opportunity to beat anybody at any given day in any series, except for Oakland. We just got swept by Oakland. That's the only team to sweep us this year. So, but
And they've done it
I,
twice.
That's right. Also, adding him, we haven't gotten any timetable on what Michael Brantley's return is going to look like. I don't know if he's even going to return. I mean, we can't ever get a straight answer from anybody, but uh, he's if he comes back this year, it's going to be towards the end of the year. He's only going to be getting a couple at bats before the postseason. You plug in Josh Bell, you could put Jordan in the outfield. You could split some time DHing. You could still have, I mean, because you never know, maybe Yuli Gurriel gets a hot bat at the end of the year. So you could still rotate him in the lineup. But we definitely need to score runs more consistently than we are right now if we're going to hope to have the ultimate, goal, which is a championship World Series.
So for those of y'all, I mean, the teams that have ended up winning the World Series, I would say, with the exception of the COVID year, and then also the Boston Red Sox most recent year when they won in 2018. The team that has actually gotten hot towards the end of July and maintained that through August and September was typically the team that won the World Series. So it happened with us in 2017 when we acquired Verlander. Then we got hot, right? I think we also had probably a little bit of motivation with the whole Hurricane Harvey situation. But then 2019 was the Nationals. The Nationals were like 15 games under 500 in June and ended up they were tied for the best record from June 15th to the remainder of the year along with us. And they ended up beating us in 7 games, right? 2020 obviously was the COVID year. 2021, last year, Atlanta was like 2 games under 500, and then they went on a tear the last 2 months of the year and ended up getting their way into the World Series and winning. So just to kind of give you guys a frame of reference, I mean, not that I have any doubt in our team, but it's also something to keep in mind. I mean, I'm very much a realist when it comes to the game. I always kind of expect the worst, and typically the best will happen. So, yeah, that's just kind of like my 411 on, on post All-Star break action with regards to these teams. All right, cool. So moving on. So Taylor, who's kind of like your toss up? Like, if you could have anybody right now, and you knew that we had the trade pieces to get them, who would it be and why?
Well, absolutely Luis Castillo, just because pitching, you can never have enough pitching. And I tell you, our it's not that our staff hasn't done good because they've been great this year, and our bullpen's been nails, right? Our bullpen's been great as well, with Phil Maton, Hector Neris, Montero. I mean, of course, Presley continues to do his thing, but a lot of these guys that we have are unproven in the postseason. I mean, one of our best relievers, Montero. He was on the Mariners last year, and he had like a 4.5 ERA or something crazy. So I would like to have an extra, just especially because we don't know what we're going to get from Lance McCullers. Jake Odorizzi is not that guy. Luis Garcia and Christian Javier and even your Quiddy, they have shown flashes, and they showed flashes last year, but they also showed implosion last year. Even Framber Valdez, All-Star this year, he's not been immune to some of the quirks that, he just can't get a strike when he needs one. And he's, walking batters and next thing you know, it's 5-0. So Castillo would be my absolute target that I wish we could do. Now, if it's not that, I would say, go into the bullpen. Ken Rosenthal has come out and said that the Detroit Tigers are essentially open for business. And one of the studs they have on their team is a reliever named Andrew Chafin. That's a lefty, which we desperately need. I mean, I'm pretty sure Blake Taylor has been hurt all year. I mean, I know he pitched a couple at the beginning of the season, but you get Andrew Chafin, that's the best lefty in your bullpen, like on your staff, ready to go. And we definitely need that because some of these really hot hitters, they tend to be left-handed, and we kind of get put into a pinch. Yes, our relievers can knock out some lefties too, but there's a reason that baseball, it doesn't change that much, and the lefty on lefty action is what you want. I would say go get Andrew Chafin, get you a reliever, get you that strong lefty in your bullpen.
Awesome. So, I mean, I think for me, man, if I could have anybody, because again, this is anybody.
Yeah.
So I mean, any player essentially would be up for grabs. I mean, and obviously, I'm going to take into consideration like if they're in the playoff hunt or not. But here recently, just simply because they've started deteriorating as a team here recently. I mean, dude, I really wouldn't mind like Brandon Belt. He'd give us a great left-handed bat that can hit for average. He's a gap-to-gap guy. And I would say
Exploit too.
And I would say, if not him, this is an interesting concept. So follow me on this. What are your thoughts on if we got Andrew Benintendi from Kansas City?
Andrew Benintendi, I mean, let's also not forget that if it hadn't been for Alex Bregman, Andrew Benintendi would be an Astro. It was rumored that Luno loved him, thought he was, a great player, but Alex Bregman was there, and boom, there you go, right? Benintendi's an interesting one. Not getting on to the whole vaccination, discussion at all, but in terms of his availability, he's been playing. He's had an all-star year. I just don't know about the Royals. What they're gonna want for Benintendi, because there's a little bit more control that you have than, say, for example, a Josh Bell. So if we're trying to upgrade multiple positions, which we should be looking at upgrading multiple positions, but I would love him. He's a corner outfielder, so that gives you insurance for Michael Brantley. Still don't really know what we do with center field, but I would say our biggest need, though, is definitely first base and catcher. That would probably be a bigger need, but if it's only one player, I mean, Benintendi would definitely help. I'm not discounting that at all. But just to me, the Josh Bell offensive acquisition makes more sense. It fills more of a need for what we're lacking.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and again, it was just kind of like a dream, right? like if I could have anybody, I mean, because I really like Benintendi a lot. I think he's great defensively.
Yeah,
and
he is. Gold Glover.
And I think he can also he typically hits left-handed pitching very well, also, which is pretty rare for a left-handed hitter as well. And I think he would help kind of solidify and even out, any kind of potential loss in Brantley. Provided that Brantley doesn't come back, or if he does, he's at least not healthy. So, but yeah,
Right.
so I want to keep us moving along here. So in terms of so typically every week, for those of y'all that don't know, MLB and there's some other sports writers that typically release their power rankings. And what Taylor and I want to discuss, as our last topic of the show is, the top five, right? And where they're currently ranked. And I know that we had, you and I touched on this yesterday when our audio wasn't working, so we'll touch on it again. But MLB actually, ironically enough, did not even release power rankings this week. They only released World Series odds. And for those of y'all that didn't see it, the Astros were fourth. So we were number 4 out of, all 30 teams, right? So, and it's funny because there's a lot of sports writers now that have us number 1 because of how we manhandled the Yankees. But it's interesting because it had New York number 1, LA number 2, Then it had the Mets third, and then it was us, and then Atlanta. So those were the top five for the World Series odds. And I know Ben Verlander, who is actually the brother of Justin Verlander, released his power rankings, and he has the Astros first. So Taylor, I guess for the viewers, tell me, do you agree with? I mean, have you looked at Ben Verlander's top five? And if you have, do you agree with it? Would you change it? Like, kind of give me what your top five would be if it's different.
Well, to me, the team that is kind of looking way more vulnerable than everybody thought is the Yankees. The Yankees have kind of fallen off a little bit, and a team that is kind of they're not. I wouldn't say they're going under the radar, but they're pretty nasty and they're deep in every position. Is Atlanta. So if I had to rank them in the top five, obviously, I mean, not even like Homer basis aside, I mean, Astros have clearly been the best team in baseball. We just got done wrecking the Mets. We swept the Yankees almost. I mean, except for two games where they had come from behind walk-off wins from Aaron Judge. Like other than that, I mean, they haven't had a lead in any single at bat, something like 82 innings or something crazy. So, I would say us first. Got to put the Dodgers second, even though I hate to do it. But I mean, the Dodgers pitching, their offense, they're a juggernaut. I would say Yankees third. Then I would do Atlanta and the Mets. Now, Atlanta, I think in a series matches up pretty, depending on who they match up with. It's going to end up being, in my opinion, it's going to be the Dodgers and the Braves in the NLCS, in my opinion. But we'll see after August 2nd what these teams do, and that'll definitely change it up quite a bit. Us too. I mean, we have some warts as well. I guess these other teams that they need to do is just put an Oakland Athletics jersey on, and then they'll start beating us more. I don't know.
Or just play all the games in Oakland.
It makes no sense. I mean, we can't beat them in Oakland. We can't beat them in Houston. I mean, it's whenever we play the Athletics, it's crazy. Every single hitter is Hank Aaron. Every single pitcher is Nolan Ryan. I mean, we almost got shut out by a guy that has an ERA like of an 8. Like they almost stopped counting his ERA. It's so high, and he almost shut us out, like 7 shutout innings. It was insanity.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, I do think just over the last 5 years, that we've been watching them, pretty religiously. I feel like we've always had the reputation of playing down to our competition, but then playing up, in those big moments. And I mean, not that I necessarily think that, we just can't beat Oakland. I mean, obviously, I think we're clearly the better team, but I mean, how baseball is, man. It's a game of momentum, and there's times where you're clearly the best team on paper, but you don't play like it, right? So, it's just one of those things. I mean, am I worried at all? No. I mean, I think we're about to open a 4-game set in Houston. I don't think it starts tomorrow. I think it's Friday. I could be wrong. It may be tomorrow. Here, let me
Well,
check real quick.
while you're looking that up, I was going to tell you, I wouldn't discount it completely. The thing is that they have all these games, you play all the games, and it's a thing. Seattle just got done on a 14-game win streak. Yes, we swept them, but those 3 games that we gained, we just threw them away against Oakland, last place team. If it was something like, if the Yankees beat us 3 games, or Dodgers or whoever, or even Seattle, that's a little bit more understandable. But like, you can't. I understand baseball plays a crap ton of games, but we're midway through the season. Seattle may make a big move. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe Seattle goes and gets Juan Soto. I mean, imagine Juan Soto in that lineup. They got pitching. I mean, they're a good team, and I just don't want us to concede the lead that we've had, because here's what's going to end up happening. Once we get a lead secured enough, like once it's high enough, we can rest players and things of that nature. Like we can take it a little easy at the end of the year. But it's too early to be doing that. It's too early to be giving games away. You know, I like to, when we talked about when we swept the Yankees after the All-Star game. uh we were talking about it a little bit yesterday. Yes, things are different in October in the postseason and stuff like that, but you give yourself, like, don't kid yourself. Like, you played baseball too in college. Like, when you get that mental edge on a team, like the Astros have on the Yankees, that's powerful stuff. And I mean, baseball is a weird game, a very weird game. And I would like to be, I would like them to take advantage of every advantage they can possibly can. And that would be as simple as, don't be giving games away to Oakland, because just blew up in your face. I don't know what they were trying to do. I don't know what they're trying to get away with, but it blew up in your face. The 3 games you gained from Seattle, you just gave them all away, because I'm pretty sure Seattle just swept Texas. So there you are.
Yeah. Just validating kind of what I mentioned earlier. So I checked the schedule. So yeah, so we do open a 4-game set starting tomorrow in Houston against Seattle. Now,
Perfect.
so I agree with you in terms of, baseball is a very, very weird game. I'm very superstitious, like to the point where, like, during a series, or if I was having like a good run of innings, coming in relief and not allowing a run, like I'd tie my shoes, one foot and then the other foot in the same order every single time. I wouldn't change breakfast. I wouldn't change anything about the routine itself.
Sure.
And I think I think part of it, man, is just being around it so much. It's almost like, yeah, you're superstitious, but it's almost like a respect for the game. Like, you're honoring the baseball gods because you don't want to upset them.
Right.
But I think also too with Houston, because you mentioned this, it's like we should take every advantage that we should get. And I think part of that is, and I was coached this all through high school and college, is finding ways to win and trying not to lose. They're two different things, right?
Sure.
So doing everything you can to win against your competition versus being too afraid because you don't want to lose, right? And you're not really being the aggressor and seeking out those opportunities to give yourself that advantage, to put yourself in front in a series or in a game or whatever the case is. So,
'Cause if you're smoking these teams throughout the year, and then you match up with them in a series, because it's not just going to be one game for us. We're going to have a series. Well, I mean, if we keep giving games away and Seattle keeps winning, I don't know. But if we're in a series, and think about it, any of these games that get close, and that's why, like, at the Atlanta series, Atlanta was not afraid of Houston. But like the Yankees, that is a different story. They start getting tight, they start making bad pitches, we start getting on base, and all of a sudden they throw something right down the middle, and Jose Altuve knocks it out of the park, walk-off wins and stuff like that. So it starts getting real tight. But if you don't give those mental advantage, you don't take advantage of those mental advantages, it's going to hurt you in the long run. That's why it's so silly. And I don't know if it's a Dusty Baker thing, but it's just so silly. Like, the lineup that he put out today, it was essentially our quadruple A team, and Jordan. It was Jordan and our quadruple A team. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know what he was thinking, but it just made those black holes in our lineup even more relevant. That, hey, we need to go out and we need to make some improvements quick.
yeah, for sure. So I want to give you kind of my top 5, and we'll get this thing
Yeah.
wrapped up. So mine, I mean, obviously I would have Houston first as well, just because I just think in terms of depth, both in the starting rotation and the bullpen, and then our actual lineup itself. I mean, granted, when Yuli's is performing, when Bregman is performing, and these guys are on all, firing on all cylinders, to me, there's not a better lineup, period. I mean, because it's just, we can beat you in so many different ways.
Yeah.
I would say my number 2, I would agree with you that it's LA. I think LA 1 through 9 is very, very deep.
Similar.
Yeah. Now, I don't think that they have the same kind of depth and starting rotation that we do. I mean, I think, don't get me wrong, I'm not discrediting Kershaw's year. He's having a great year. Being as old as he is and he's been in the league as long as he has. But the unknown there, man, is still with, Dustin May, right? He's coming
Right.
back from Tommy John, and now Walker Buehler has a bone spur in his elbow, and they're
Right.
optimistic he'll come back in September. I mean, and so basically they would have potentially two of the rookies that they're adding to their starting rotation, in those guys' places, which is huge. I mean, because they don't have any playoff experience, right? So,
Right.
or at least to my knowledge, they don't. But and then their bullpen. I mean, I'm not overly concerned with their bullpen. They're drastically different than they were the last time we played them in the playoffs. They have, they have Kimbrel, but I mean, they
He
have
hasn't been very good for them. I wouldn't be with Kimbrel coming out. It's kind of like what the Yankees are going on with what's his name, Chapman. I mean, it's not Boston Kimbrel. So
right. I mean, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they have Gratterall who throws 100-mile-an-hour sinkers. I mean, he has good electric stuff, but he's consistently inconsistent, right? I mean, there's times where you legit don't know where that thing's going, so it's very hard to kind of gauge any momentum. But it also, because we're such patient hitters at the plate, that just provides us with potentially more opportunity to get on base. So so I have Houston 1, LA 2. I think my number 3, man, is coming up. I'm gonna put the Braves ahead of the Yankees.
yeah,
So I have Atlanta 3, because what they're doing, considering the fact that they added Matt Olson and lost Freddie Freeman, and Matt Olson's having a career year with them, and now
they
they
haven't
have
missed a beat.
and now they have Acuna back, and they won the World Series without him last year. I mean, don't sleep on Atlanta. For the viewers out there, they're a very, very good team, and they are a force in the National League to be reckoned with. It wouldn't even surprise me if they beat the Dodgers in the NLCS in 6 games or less. So, so my number 4 after that would be the Yankees, and then following them actually would be, just based on how they've played recently, would be Toronto. Toronto has been playing really, really well. I think they've won now 7 or 8 in a row.
And that helps though when you play Boston 4 times, who is a dog water dumpster fire right now.
I agree. But still, I mean, it's still the major leagues. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
still gonna win.
yeah, I mean, and at the same time, I mean, it only takes one to kind of get yourself going in terms of putting on a streak and guys getting hot. So, like George Springer hit a grand slam yesterday, and he had I think he ended up with 2 or 3 hits. Springer's back and healthy. They have great young talent in Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette. They have the platinum glover Matt Chapman over there at third. They're set, man. They really are, and they're set up for the future. They also have Yuli's brother. They have Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, they have a lot of good pieces in place and a lot of controllable pieces in place that really, have set them up for the future. So, but yeah, man, that's my top 5.
And the scary thing is that that's a team that could theoretically get into this Juan Soto race. Just a real quick question: do you think Juan Soto does get traded before the August 1st deadline? August 2nd deadline.
There are some, for what they want. There are some teams out there that have it. I think the team realistically that could do it and kind of keep their core in place is St. Louis, and I've said that since the beginning.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I know that he kind of idolizes Pujols, and the fact that Pujols could potentially be a mentor for the kid
Yeah.
would kind of set him up for the future. Not to mention, St. Louis, their fan base has a great reputation. They're even, from what I hear, friendly to away fans and stuff too, and they just respect the game, which is really cool to see.
Except when they stole our passwords. Better than that.
Well, that's the organization. That's not the fan base.
Sure. That's true. It's true.
Um,
We didn't bang on trash cans, but we get throttled. So whatever.
Yeah, but we still drop bombs, so it's okay.
It's true.
But yeah, so I mean, like I honestly think that the team that has the best chance to do it would be St. Louis. So, but want to thank you guys again for joining us and being patient with us while we got all of our technical stuff worked out. So we are going to let you guys go and enjoy the rest of your evening. And hopefully we will see you guys within the next couple of days for episode number 2. You guys have a great evening, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace out, Girl Scout.